the lights in the security housing unit never really go out. They dim, but even at night there's a thin glow under the steel door. On this morning a loud, metallic clang echoed down the corridor of Pelican Bay's SHU, followed by an alarm. A man named Marcus Rivera, who had been in solitary for 9 years, stood frozen in his 8 by 10-foot cell. The slot in his door rattled open, but no tray slid through. Instead, an officer's voice came through the speaker, "Stand back from the door." Marcus did as told. He pressed his palms to the cool concrete wall, heart racing. Something unusual was happening on the tier. Across from Marcus, another prisoner began shouting. A second alarm joined the first. The corridor lights shifted to red. For a place designed to be silent and controlled, this was chaos. Officers rushed past the windows, shields raised. Marcus could hear boots, radios, and one phrase over and over, "Medical on the tier." He stood on his bunk to reach the tiny square of frosted glass near the ceiling and caught a glimpse of a stretcher being wheeled past. In the SHU, where prisoners are locked down 23 hours a day, even a small event feels like an earthquake. To understand what Marcus saw that day, you need to know how the SHU works. Pelican Bay State Prison was built in 1989 to hold California's most violent and influential inmates. The security housing unit is the heart of that design, a block of windowless pods lined with single cells, each about the size of a parking space. Prisoners here are locked in for nearly all hours. Meals arrive through a slot. The 1 hour of yard each day is not a green field but a small concrete pen with walls so high you see only a slice of sky. Advocacy groups have compared the SHU to living in a bathroom. Former inmates talk about counting cracks in the wall, pacing 10 steps one way and 10 back, making up conversations to hear a voice. Court documents from the SHU versus Governor lawsuit described men losing weight, losing sleep, even hallucinating. Marcus had his own routine to keep his mind from slipping: push-ups, sit-ups, and writing small poems on scraps of paper that he flushed when done so no one could take them. Most days were quiet. An officer would open the slot, push in a tray, close it. The prisoner would eat alone, read if he had a book, exercise in place, and mark another day on the wall. Marcus had not had a contact visit with family in years. Letters from his sister came every few months, always with careful words and no photographs. The only time he heard other voices was during the hour in the exercise pen, when distant echoes from other pens bounced off the walls like ghosts. Even in this extreme routine there were highs and lows. A high might be getting a new book from the library cart, or a letter from an advocacy group telling him his name was on a legal motion. A low might be hearing that an appeal was denied, or losing the 1 hour of yard time because of a lockdown. Marcus had lived through hunger strikes and cell extractions. He had learned to breathe slow and keep his eyes on small things, the way sunlight moved across the concrete, or the feel of warm water from the sink on his hands. That morning began with normal motions. He had done his push-ups, counted the cracks, stood at the slot for breakfast. But when the slot opened, instead of a tray came the order to step back. Then the alarm started. Through the little window he saw a man being carried out on a stretcher, face pale, eyes half closed. Marcus knew him only by a nickname shouted through vents. In the SHU you build whole friendships from just a voice and a name. The red lights flashed, then slowed. Officers swept the tier. Radios hissed. Marcus sat on his bunk and felt the old fear rise up, the fear that the small routines he built could be torn away by one unseen event. He picked up a scrap of paper and wrote 2 words, "Still here." He set it on the floor. In his head he repeated the ladder he made for himself: brush teeth, make bed tight, write a poem, breathe 10 counts, but his eyes stayed on the door. Because even though the alarms were quiet now, he knew something had changed. People outside thought life in the SHU was frozen, the same every day. But Marcus knew better. In this place, silence can break without warning, and when it does, nobody knows what comes next. That he heard footsteps stop at his door. Keys jangled. An officer's shadow crossed the window. "Rivera," a voice said. "Legal call in an hour." Then the voice lowered. "Medical's still on the tier. Stay ready." The slot closed again. Marcus sat very still, listening to the hum of the vent. He thought about the man on the stretcher. He thought about his own name being called. He thought about the 1 hour of exercise he might lose today. He pressed his fingers to the concrete wall to feel something solid. Somewhere down the corridor, a new sound started, a soft tapping through the plumbing, like code. Marcus tilted his head to listen. The taps came again, faster this time, spelling out a message he couldn't yet understand. The lights above his door blinked once, then twice. The speaker crackled. A different officer's voice came through, tight with urgency. "Rivera, stand by. Change in movement. You're going out early." Marcus looked at the scrap of paper on the floor, then at the tiny square of sky through the vent. He had been in this box for nearly a decade. Nothing ever moved fast here. But now, in the most secure unit of California's most notorious prison, something was happening, and he was about to be part of it. The metal door slid open with a deep groan that Marcus rarely heard except during emergencies. 2 officers stood there, one with a clipboard, the other holding cuffs. "Rivera, step to the back of the cell," the taller one said. Marcus obeyed. Yed, palms on the wall. He felt the cuffs snap onto his wrists through the food slot, then the door swung open all the way. The bright corridor light hit his eyes like a flashbulb. "Legal call," the officer said again, but his tone was different, more rushed. They walked him down the long hallway past cells where other men pressed faces to tiny windows. Inmates who had been silent all morning now tapped the walls or called out his name in a whisper. Something was spreading down the tier like an invisible current. At the end of the corridor, Marcus saw the phone room door already open. But instead of the usual empty desk and handset, a third officer was inside, talking urgently into a radio. A fax machine on the counter was spitting out paper. One sheet slid out, then another, then a third. The officer caught the stack, glanced at it, then at Marcus. "Sit," he said quietly. Marcus sat, wrists still cuffed. The officer pressed the handset into his hands. "It's your lawyer," he said. "Marcus, it's Dana." His attorney's voice came through, quicker than usual. "Listen carefully. We just filed a new motion with fresh evidence. The federal judge scheduled an emergency review for next week. That's why you're getting called out now. They need to confirm your status." "What does that mean for me?" Marcus asked. "It means we have a real chance at moving you out of indefinite SHU, she said. But the state is also moving to transfer you to another wing for observation. It's supposed to be temporary, but conditions there are even harsher. I'm trying to block it." Marcus closed his eyes. He had dreamed for years of leaving the SHU, but not like this, not into a place even tighter. "Do I have a choice?" "Not yet," Dana said softly. "But you're on the record now. Everything's moving fast. I need you steady. Keep your notes, keep your breathing. We're going to fight for a real transfer, not a punishment. Transfer, not a punishment." The call clicked off. Marcus sat still, handset pressed to his ear long after the line went dead. The officer took it back, then nodded at the 2 escorting him. "Let's go." They walked him past the cells again. Taps echoed through the pipes. Someone whispered, "Stay strong." Someone else muttered, "They're moving him." Marcus kept his eyes forward. At the corner of the tier he saw a heavy door he'd never been through before. Extra locks. A camera dome above. "This way," the taller officer said. "Where?" Marcus asked quietly. "Observation," the officer replied without looking at him. The hallway narrowed. The lights grew brighter, almost white. Marcus could smell fresh paint and something chemical. His heart thudded. He thought of the small poems he'd flushed, the cracks he'd counted, the 1 hour of sky he'd had each day. Was it about to vanish? They stopped before the new door. A 4th officer was waiting with a handheld scanner. He swiped a card. The locks clicked like thunder. The door began to open inch by inch, revealing a corridor Marcus had never seen, lined with thicker steel and glowing cameras. Before he could step through, the radio on the officer's shoulder crackled. A voice from control said, sharp but controlled, "Hold. perimeter alert. All movement freeze. Repeat, freeze. Everyone stopped. The door stayed half open. Red lights blinked on the ceiling. Marcus stood cuffed between two worlds, behind him the SHU he knew, ahead of him a wing he feared, and over everything the control voice repeated, "All units hold. Situation under review." In the bright strip of light between the two doors, Marcus held his breath, waiting to find out whether he was being moved, saved, or caught in something much bigger than himself.